Signs from
Would you like a sun lamp on the back?
Give us a quote for building a new
Just
one.
figure out something that's safe to pull down the
Is
road.
Greg waiting in the
Thank
car?
do that.
No.
Thank you. It's
He dropped
pulling
me
to
off.
coordinate,
He
drop me back off.
Tried to get it picked up over the
Because he's
weekend. I know I
packed
can't
in
do
the
it
car.
in the next
He
couple
takes
days.
everything,
We can't get there to get
but
it
his
either.
tools in the garage, and he'd take
How long
those
does
if
it
there
take
was
to
room.
pack a Prius? I mean, honestly.
Oh, I'm married to a packaging engineer.
Couple extra
I'm sorry.
C-cell batteries and you're good to go.
All right,
Half a pound of peanuts.
We're going to go. We got the Prius.
okay. If we could all rise and bow our heads, please, we will begin. Heavenly Father, this evening we pray for guidance, wisdom, tolerance, and respect. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Bonnie, the roll, please.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop,
Yep.
Kropa,
Here,
Johnson,
Here.
Crawford, Klaus,
Here.
Max Bauer.
Here. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes. I have a change regarding the minutes. I would like them to reflect that in our motion regarding our pay and benefits, that we also in that motion asked for an independent outside advisory committee to study.
Are you talking about the resolution?
Yes. Dan, is that what you?
Well, I was concerned that the minutes didn't reflect Elisa's first motion, which included not only the deletion of our salary, but a study on the salaries of elected officials. Could you?
A compensation committee?
Compensation
Yeah.
committee.
Okay.
And we would just like that included.
Yeah, that's just as important as the. my
With that change, are there any additional changes to the minutes? They stand approved. This is our first opportunity for public comment. And Bonnie, if you would read the rules, please.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
At this time, would anyone like to make public comment? Please.
I'm John Porter from Green Lake Township, East Duck Lake Road. I would like to talk to the board about this. Last year I mentioned to you that we should be looking at consolidating several townships in the city together into a large unit of government that's different than what we have now. And the question is the government system that we have now in serving this county, this region, is it the best we can do? And if not, what should we do? And this is looking at the future. And when I talk to people around here and say, well, what do you think should be done about, the budgets and whatnot, they almost always go into a past tense. They did this, they did that. But really, the question we should be asking, what should we be doing going forward? And I don't think that everything in your budget is mandated by the state. I think a new entity, one municipality, could relieve a lot of the budget stress that you're experiencing right now. And I'd like to maybe get on the agenda for a Ways and Means Committee. A committee meeting would be more appropriate for this subject, just to give you some of my ideas. But that's the gist of it. A new entity would relieve the budget. Give you an example. You can do a better job. I don't know, how much time do we have here? About a minute? Okay. You've eliminated the GIS department. I was on the committee, I was supervisor in East Bay from 1980 to 92. And I was on a committee in 1992 that recommended the GIS department. And my idea, and the rest of us on that committee, was to take the utility data, sewer, water, is it a paved road, electricity, who are the companies that serve each parcel, and I thought it might take 2 or 3 years to do that. And 25 years later, it hasn't been done. And as I see the progress being made, maybe another 25 years, the way we're going now. But when I asked the people in the department, what's going on with this utilities? Well, City of Traverse City has their system. Garfield Township has their system. And we can't get the data straight from the other townships to put it in, for the other townships. And the guy in charge of the GIS really did not have the authority to tell Garfield or East Bay or the City of Traverse City which systems, which data sets to use. It really was not feasible for him on his own to put this together. That's one example. Everything we do can be done better if it's in a systemized way with one entity operating, and that's what I want to talk to you about.
Thank you very much,
you.
Mr. Porter. Anyone else? Seeing no one. Next would be approval of the agenda. I have one change. We are going to be scratching special order of business presentation of Cycle 6 Michigan Local Public Health Accreditation Program Award. Are there any, Commissioner Kropa?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda minus the special order of business.
Is there a second?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Kropa, supported by Dr. Johnson, to approve the agenda as amended. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Next, we have our consent calendar. Bonnie?
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, 2015 Planning and Development Department Annual Report. B, approvals. Number 1, Proclamation for National Correctional Officers and Employees Week 2016. Number 2, Proclamation for National Police Week 2016. Number 3, 2016 hauler licenses.
Would any member of the public like any item removed from the consent calendar? Commissioners? Staff? I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Kropa. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. We have no items removed from the consent calendar. We have no special orders of business. Department action items. Public hearing, revolving loan fund application for tent craft. Mr. Syke.
Good evening, John Syke, Grand Traverse County Planning and Development Director. This evening on your agenda is a application for a revolving loan fund loan. This is through Venture North, which, as you recall, recently we had a previous loan application that came through the board, and this is the county's revolving loan fund that transferred a couple years over to Venture North, which is part of the Chamber of Commerce. These are community development block grant funds. So this is another project. It's a pretty exciting project with expansion of an existing business here in our community, Tent Craft. And what you're going through right this evening is just a public hearing on the application. This is part one of the application. There's a 15-day comment period. Once that concludes, there will be a resolution for your consideration of approving that application to go forward to the state for consideration. This project does involve property acquisition. There was an environmental review part of that record as well. But what I'd like to do this evening, we have a couple guests. Laura Galbraith from Venture North is here, and Matt Bullock from Tentcraft is also here, and I'd like to invite them up to give people an overview of what the project's all about.
Please.
Thank you, Commissioners. As John said, I'm Laura Galbraith, the Executive Director of Venture North. And the intent of the public hearing is to allow for the community to hear about the project and ask questions. The loan amount that Tentcraft is seeking is $578,000. It's for property acquisition. It's to purchase 3 parcels, which is 6 acres in the Airport Industrial Park. The primary objective of CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, is to create jobs for low to moderate income individuals. And over the course of 2 years, Tentcraft plans on hiring 17 full-time positions, of which 51% of those hires will meet that low to moderate income criteria. As John said, there will be a 15-day comment period where the community is able to ask questions, and then we'll come back after those 15 days for an actual resolution on this project. And John Syke is identified as the contact person with the county. And so with that being said, I'm going to introduce Matt Bullock, and he can give you a little bit more information on the company and their expansion opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to the Commission for in advance, hopefully approving this or giving me your good questions. But Tentcraft is a company that we started as a separate company in 2007. Previously, tents were kind of an unloved piece of Paul Britton's catalog, if you're familiar with Britton Studios. And so we've grown from about 2 employees to about 70 right now. We're at, I think, 68 or 69 employees. And I completed the buyout of Paul, which was a long-planned transition to where Tentcraft would be my company. So I bought the rest of Paul's shares effective January 1st of this year, which is why this community development block grant is so important for us, because as a separate company, we're currently leasing space in one of Paul's warehouses, and we're leasing about 33,000 square feet, and we're just absolutely packed, to the gills, and there's nowhere else for us to go. And but because I planned to do this buyout of Paul, I just didn't have any capital to move forward on another building or another piece of property. And the particular property that we're purchasing with your help was a long vacant parcel in the Aero Park industrial complex, which was developed to be an industrial complex that was actually up for rezoning. And so through some local connections, they said, hey, this parcel is up for rezoning. It was built for manufacturing. You guys are manufacturers and you're looking. If you can move on this parcel before it's rezoned, then there's a potential program that could help support you. So we plan to build a 60,000 square foot building. We'll hire 18 jobs, no problem. We just hired about 10, and we're currently hiring about 10 more. We're having a lot of trouble finding sewers. If anyone has production sewers, send them our way. But I'm really grateful for this opportunity. I think there's a lot of potential for us to keep growing and keep creating great full-time jobs with full benefits in our community.
All right, with that, I'm going to open the public hearing and put it out to commissioners first to ask questions, and then invite the public up. Commissioner Wheelock.
2 things. There is a typo in this thing that says the next 2 years, and then it says 20 as it's typed out. And we probably should fix that, because I'm pretty sure you're going to find more than 17 jobs in 20 years.
20 years, yeah. 2 years.
I guess this is in being completely open here, Tentcraft is by far one of my largest customers through my business. I'm very familiar with their operation. I'm also very familiar with their room space problem, because I just powder coated 50 sections of pallet racking and tried to find a place to put those in the building a week and a half ago. So I'm going to minimize my discussion on the project, and other than the fact that I can tell you that they are by far a class operation. They are widely sought after nationwide. We recently did a large project with them for the Buffalo Bills facility in New York. We did a project for the Staples Center. We've done racetracks in 5 or 6 different places now over the years between their parent company, Britton Media, and now the separate Tentcraft. There's barely a day that I don't have a purchase order from their company on my desk. So, you know, with that, I'm going to minimize my discussion, other than the fact that I can assure the board and the public, through my personal experience, I can guarantee you they are a class operation.
Anyone else? Dr. Johnson?
Well, I mean, it sounds to me like it's a perfect fit for that area. I mean, you've got an industrial area, and usually you have problems filling it, as you probably have, you know, how long has that been vacant?
I believe 15 years.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, it's kind of almost a no-brainer, if you will, to get a facility of that nature there. So, are you international or just in this country?
A little bit in Canada and Mexico, but one of our...
Matt, try to speak into the mic, please.
A little in Canada and Mexico, but one of our primary advantages in the U.S. is our speed advantage because we're manufacturing domestically. So we kind of lose that advantage if we were shipping to Europe or shipping to South America. So primarily domestic production.
I mean, that's always, you know, you hear nowadays all the made in America and everything else, and that's the other thing to tout about this, is it's, especially for Traverse City, is it's a wonderful facility and will be a good job source, and it's locally made, so.
All right. Any other questions before I see if the public would like to? Commissioner Kropa?
Just the role of the county in a CDBG grant, is there any financial implication at all, or what are we guaranteeing here?
No, it's the jobs that are created, so the 17 jobs that we've identified, we will be tracking through the next 2 years and coming back to you after that 2-year period to confirm that those 17 jobs were indeed created.
Just wanted to add, just to refresh everybody's memory, these are monies that, community development block grant monies. There is a 3-party agreement between the county, Venture North, and the state of Michigan that allows for this pass-through of these monies, essentially. I think Venture North has been doing a great job of really activating that loan and getting those dollars out the way that they're intended to be used. So,
John, I think...
Dr. Lathrop. It's all right.
Thank you. We did the same loan for the new doctor's office on 8th Street. Is that correct?
yes.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, maybe that's Rumper, yeah.
We did do a loan for Creekside Clinic.
Yeah.
Is that the doctor's office you're referring to? Yes.
So this is the same type of loan, am I
Same
correct?
type of loan, yes.
And then just remind me of our liability. This is how much money? $350,000? What was it?
578.
This is $578,000, yes.
And God forbid, if the company fails or something, who's responsible for that loan?
Venture North ultimately is responsible for making sure all the due diligence is perfected. And so that's why we work really closely with John. He's on the loan committee to reaffirm that there's been a certified financial institution that has vetted the project, which is Northern Initiatives. We have the state of Michigan on that loan committee as well. HUD is ultimately the entity that provides these funds. This program's been around for 30 years. They have never asked a community to bring the money back to HUD if they don't meet the national objective. They would ask you to work with the company on why didn't you create those jobs and prove to us what happened. Was it the economy? Was it a condition outside of your realm of possibility?
I'm talking more about loan default.
The loan default would be Venture North's responsibility. We would take that loss.
Okay.
If Tentcraft created the jobs, and it's 5 years down the road, and they still owe the money to Venture North, we would be responsible for that loan loss.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Any member of the public wishing to make public comment on this? This is a public hearing. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and we are taking no action on this evening.
Madam Chairman, if I could comment, historically, EDC loans used to come through the county, and at that time, before the Venture North situation, and I think over the years, we've done 12, 14 of them or something. I believe we only had, probably more than that, but I think we've only ever had 2 that failed, you know, so in all honesty, this is gap financing per se, but the fact is that we have been very successful in creating jobs in our community with the use of this tool.
All right, anyone else? Okay. Next on our agenda is administration. Mr. Menzel, that would be you.
Yeah, we have a resolution tonight coming before you, which will eliminate the position of county surveyor. The board has the authority to do that. It would take effect in January 1 of 2017. The grant would then be managed by a appointment, which would be the same individual. And the net out is it would save about $4,400 from the general fund, and all funds that would be paid for compensation for work would come out of the grant, and it would be based on the amount of the grant, and the grant has a provision that would allow up to 20% of the amount of the grant to be paid for administrative costs.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Coropa.
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution for the elimination of the office of the county surveyor.
Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Dr. Johnson. Discussion.
Didn't get to finish. Does it have to be a dual motion for the appointment, or are we making a separate motion for the appointment?
No, this is just a
Just a
resolution to eliminate the county surveyor.
And it stands as I stated.
Discussion? Dr. Johnson?
Yeah, and, I mean, all the work that was done by this position is still going to be done. And
Yes.
it's actually going to be paid out of the fund where basically there'll be no county dollars involved.
Yeah, it
Yes.
eliminates anything coming out of the general fund. What compensation would be based on the grant. And the grant last year was $50,000, for example, and it allows you to pay up to 20%. You don't have to pay up to 20%, but it could be negotiated. And in talking to the current land surveyor, he agreed with this and agreed to stay on as the county surveyor under these provisions. So nothing would really change, except that we'd be saving some money and have one less elected official.
Commissioner Wheelock.
This is a discussion we've had every 4 years for probably nearly as long as I can remember, whether or not it we needed an elected official. The situation with survey records is similar to we talked about with the Register of Deeds. Those records, have to be right. They just simply have to be. One thing that's different with survey records is they're usually owned and possessed by the surveyors that completed the work. So we end up with a situation, Bob Mitchell, back a number of years ago, bought all of Bill Batzner's records. So Bob probably personally holds 75–80% of the survey records in Grand Traverse County over the last 50 years. He holds the records in his possession. And we've always had the discussion about whether or not those records belong to him or whether they belong to the county. The long and the short of it is the only function that we've used an assessor or a surveyor for is for the actual remonumentation operation. And that, as Tom mentioned, is a grant-funded position. We have always used, as far as I can remember, we've always used a separate county employee to actually administer that grant. Up until his retirement last year, Reiner Reichert has done that as long as I can remember as far as the administration. And then the actual contracting of the work, the location of the corners and the designation of those corners has been contracted out. 3 surveyors have done it: Gordy Fraser, Gosling Zubek, and Bob Mitchell. Those 3 have basically taken the list. Okay, we have $45,000 this year. It's going to cost so many dollars per corner, and you take 12, I got 13, whatever the situation has been. That's the way it's been handled. And it's been successful. We're about 85% through the section corners. But then the question becomes is, are we going to go back and do the half sections? When the state originally set this program in place, they wanted it done, originally I think they wanted it done by by year 2000. Well, then they kept pushing the date out because they didn't want to kick in the money that it was going to take to get it done. So we're at that situation. There's a fourth surveyor that sits on a board of appeals, and that person was also appointed by the county board. The four members, Gosling, Zubak, Gordy Frazier, Bob Mitchell, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember the fourth guy's name right now, that handled the appeals. If there was any question of where that corner belonged, the board reviewed all of the information and deemed, what was correct. I'm sure we all know places, I remember a few years ago, they surveyed the park at Long Lake Township, and they ended up with a survey stake 18 feet over into the playground at the duplex that was the Head Start Center. I don't know what happened, but over the years, some of those corners have moved back and forth, but a lot of the old corners, when you find them, they are very, very accurate.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheelock. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. We have no old unfinished business. I have a little bit of new business. On your desk, as you may recall, we talked about an agenda meeting with the chair and alternating commissioners. And today we took a very, very scientific approach to assigning commissioners for agenda meetings. We put the names in a hat and drew them out. And that was Chris Kramer and Jen DeHaan. So on your desk you have a proposed schedule, and what I'm going to suggest is if you cannot make that particular date for the agenda review committee, that's fine. Feel free to trade, or if you can't find anyone to trade, that's fine. I will still be there and do it. I'd like this just basically be so that all commissioners have access to what is going to be on the agenda before it comes before the board. Are we okay with that then? All right, moving on. Next week, we have an equalization meeting, and we do need a quorum. It is required by state law to be on Tuesday. Dr. Lathrop has patients all day that Tuesday, and I'm not coming back from Florida for this. So, please check.
Tuesday the 12th?
Is that? Chris Kramer's got next Tuesday.
The 11th.
The 11th?
11th.
The 11th?
No, it's Tuesday, the 12th. It's by law, they have to do it that day.
And what time?
2:30 in the afternoon, isn't it?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock? Thank you,
I
Bonnie.
cannot make it.
Okay.
I
got
have
that.
my townships that night. It's Tuesday, so
No, it's 2 o'clock in the
2 o'clock.
2 in
afternoon.
the afternoon.
Yeah.
that's the only thing.
All right,
Move it to
so
tonight is what I'm
Commissioner
saying.
Kropa, you can make it?
I can make it during the day.
Yes. Commissioner Wheelock?
Sure. Yep.
Yes.
All right, so we will have a quorum. Thank you for letting me know. This is our second opportunity for public comment. Don't everyone stampede to the podium. Seeing none. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Kropa.
Tomorrow is the monthly MTA, Michigan Township Association lunch meeting, and there will be someone there from the Enbridge Pipeline to discuss oil pipelines in the Great Lakes. So it should be a pretty interesting meeting, and that's like it is every month, noon at the Elks. So you're invited to go to that, and Commissioner Max Bauer, I'll be your replacement there for the board representation, but everyone else is invited to go. And I also wanted to officially welcome my friend Jaden there. He serves his community as a Boy Scout, and he's here watching our meeting as part of his service. So thank you for coming, Jaden.
Anyone else? As you know, during the last, and I emailed this out to everyone, so I will do a commissioner report here. I have asked our administrator and deputy administrator to make the request for department reports to the county board, not only for our review, but for the public, so the public can see what's going on in the departments throughout the county. And I did receive a report today, and I left it upstairs in my mailbox. I forgot it. The Drain Commissioner provided information that he is fighting beavers that are wanting to build dams at Silver Lake. And I want to let everybody know that that report is out on his website, so you can actually see him. And he has to go out there almost on a daily basis because the water is so cold where they're damming it up. I mean, he can't, it's too cold for him to be diving down to, so he has to go out there almost on a daily basis and clean this out. And I've neglected to bring that with me. It's up in my mailbox, but Greg was packing the car, and I wanted to hurry up, and I'm sorry. I will give it to Mr. Menzel to include in next week's packet for everyone. Anybody else? Dr. Johnson?
Well, it's not a commissioner report, but I will not be here at our regular meeting on the 20th.
All righty.
You know, I'll be up at the Veterans Home in Marquette.
Okay.
Are they going to let you out? Just throwing
To
it
go
out
fight the
there.
damn beavers, maybe.
All right. We have no closed session? Nope. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
John?